So, welcome back to Max's Mean Machines and Building the Beast, episode 24. So, in this episode, we're going to show you how we upgraded the open rear axle. It had a 355 ratio, and we put a Possi 456 in it. And we do a pretty good job of showing how we did that. And then we upgrade the rear suspension to coil over with the leaf springs to give it some more height and stability. And as you can see here, I'm really enjoying it, driving it around a little bit before I've actually go to finish the car. Oh, I also put on the bumpers and everything, and I'll show you how I do that. And hope you really like this video, and really appreciate how everybody's been watching them. And let's get into it and see how you enjoy it. So you had seen how I'd made the brackets before the bumpers went on from the previous pictures, and so I went ahead and bolted the bumpers back on. And as you can see, I've stepped them out quite a lot from that picture there, but it just works. It just makes it look meaner on the front. So I've been trying to work out what to do with the back bumper. I'm thinking my cheapest scenario might be to buy a brand new truck bumper, a chrome one, and put that on, because that actually would fit quite well, and it gives quite a nice beefy look. And if it's chrome, I think I'd like it. And I should make it be able to fit fairly well. Well, at least a bumper that wide. So I think my best scenario is to just buy a bumper and make it work. So the original bumper was in just too bad a shape to do anything with. I actually dropped it off at my buddy's powder coating place, and he ended up deciding that it wasn't good enough to do. So even though the truck bumper didn't fit perfectly from like looking down on top of it from the side view, in general it looked pretty damn good. So that's what I decided to do, and you'll see how it looks in a few minutes. Oh yeah, I'll let you see how the front bumper looks from a few different angles here, and so you can digest that. But when you build a monster car, it's all about proportions and getting everything to look right together. You can see in this video here that it's still sitting a bit low at the back, and you know, back to proportions again. Doesn't look quite right, and obviously you want some decent height there, so if you go a bump or you're towing a boat or something, it's not going to bottom out. So I address that a little bit later in this video, and you'll see how I build the cross member to do the rubber blocks to stop the wheels going up into the fenders, and how I put some I think it was QA1 shocks, adjustable shocks, to give me some more height at the back. And it works out really good. But yeah, the car's looking better and better every time I photograph it or videotape it, and it's just coming along really nicely. So coming up now, you'll see how the 2003 Dodge Ram rear bumper, truck bumper, actually looks on this car, and it's actually surprising how well it fits. It looks really nice. I mean, from the back and from most angles it looks great. It doesn't look perfect, you know, from every angle if you're looking down on it on the side, but I can't really complain. It didn't cost that much. It looks really good, and maybe one day I'll find the original back bumper for this car and maybe try that, but it works really good. Funnily enough, the first time we took the car out, we pulled up at the end of a car show, and the cool guy on the PA is like, hold everything, you know, and we ended up getting one of the best of show awards, and we hadn't even entered, so it was pretty cool. I had been looking forward to take the car out with the first one I built, which is owned by my son now, and so we cruised out together, and yeah, it's amazing the looks we get. I mean, we get amazing looks when we take out one car. When there's two of them, it's quite funny to watch. But yeah, this was our first little out and out together, and it looked really good. Anyway, let's get into how I did the back axle. Alright, so I've opened up my 2003 Dodge Ram 1500 rear end, and I'm going to put a Possi 456 there, 4.56 ratio in there. It's got a 355 open right now. So I'm going to remove this little grub screw here, which allows me to slide this pin out, which should allow me to push the axles in. The little clips will fall out, and I should be able to remove the axles. Then these lock the set bolts to put to tension this in and out. So I'll take these off, and then I'll pull the caps off, and I'll be able to wind one of these out and pull this center section out. So it's very important that these caps go in the same way. Often they're marked. We can see that says 895. So the writing's at the bottom, pointing that way. I'm trying to translate Italian flavors into what they're putting together. That's part of the heritage. So I'll make sure those go on the right side. Right. Right, it's very important that these caps go on exactly the same way. This hole's off center, so it goes on the inside, and this one's kind of got a mark at the top of it. So this one goes this way up, and I'm going to sit it in this box over here. And this one I'm going to put in the box over here. Alright, the caps are off. So right now, as far as I understand, I haven't really studied it that much, I'm trying to read more. The only thing that's stopping it from coming out is these are threaded, and you take the drive shaft totally out and you put a rod down there with a nut on it, and you can screw those in, which allow this to come out. And when you adjust it, it's important to have that centralized. So as you can see right now, on the passenger side, I have that many threads showing, and on the driver's side looks about the same, but that's going to be one of the critical measurements apart from the pinion. So these clips, you just pull those out there, these clips slide in when it's pinned in to stop the axles falling out. I'm going to turn this, see if I can see where those clips go in. Yeah, the clips presumably click into the end of the shaft. So yeah, this is might be able to put a little spike, a screwdriver through there and turn those things in. Okay, I've got this ready to put the new gear in. So
I took the bearing carrier out, and then the bearing, and then the oil seal. So to go back in, you have to put the outer race, tap that in there, and then you put the small bearing in there, and then you put your oil seal in. So this goes in first. This goes in first, like that. And then the bearing goes in. And then obviously the oil seal goes on last. And then we tap this in for the main bearing for the pinion, and then the pinion slot goes in with the bearing attached to it. I think this is the crush collar they talk about, so I'm going to leave that in place. We may put shims in there, or we may put another crush sleeve in there, and Bob's your uncle. But this seems to be able to be adjusted through this hole here. You just get a screwdriver on there and you just tighten it up. I've left this one where it was, so when we put the new one in, I'm guessing that's possibly in the right place. But I guess we put our pinion in, crush it to the right tolerance, and then we put the our gear in, and I don't know if we use the paint and stuff, and then we see how the wear marks go as we spin it, I guess before the drive shafts goes in, until we get our perfect pattern by moving these in or out, and then we snug them in place and put the axles back in. So I've got this ready for the new one to go in. I'm just going to clean up the gasket area a little bit better and make sure everything's clean in there. I've knocked out all the bearing shells and everything, ready for the new ones. And Bob's your uncle.
So obviously the reason I'm doing this is because the 355 open gear was far too high for the huge tyres I have. So I'm hoping that with the 456 gears it's going to be a lot better.
So I've removed the 355 open gear and I'm going to install a Yukon Possi bits underneath here. So there's going to be a 456 ratio Possi, because I have these huge tyres on this monster car, and I've cleaned up everything ready to go. So I'm going to tap my bearing races in the appropriate spots. I've removed these, wire wheeled them so that they turn really easily, so that when I do my alignment. And I am going to pull the bearing off that pinion because I may use it. It's the same Pinion bearing as the one that's going on, so I may horn it out a little bit so it goes on the shaft easily of the new one, so that I can get the appropriate pinion depth without having difficulty pulling the bearings on and off. So when I've got the correct pinion depth, I'll then just pull those bearings off, which I horned out a little bit, so it'll be a lot easier, and then press the final new bearings back on. I've tapped in the bearing base for the races to sit in, and yeah, I just did it gentle. I used these tools here, and I actually used I used the old race because it's the perfect size to tap against. Obviously you've got to be very careful and very patient. I actually put a smear of oil around the outside of it, and the reason I did that because after watching 10 videos of people doing this, the ones which were more official bearing sites for doing this, they put a smear of oil on, but other people say, oh, you don't do that, you know, but the fitting is so tight that there's no way that would ever spin. The only way it would ever spin is if the bearings melted to it, and by that time it is so destroyed your axle wouldn't even be working. So anyway, you want to make it as easy as possible to slide that in. So clean it really good, put a smear of oil on it, and just tap them in. So I'm thinking about using the old bearing. I'm thinking about taking the bearing off of this, and it's the same make of bearing and it's in perfect condition, and maybe sanding down the inside of it fractionally so it slides on and off the shaft easily, so that I can set my pinion depth. But I'm also tempted, from some things I've read, that you can sometimes tell what shims are used by looking in here and holding up shims against it, and if you put in the same shims that the factory did, often that works. So I'm almost tempted to bolt it in to the correct tolerances with the same factory thickness shim, and hope that my pinion depth is correct. If it isn't, then I'm going to have to repress the bearings off, take the crush sleeve off, and install or remove a shim. But anyway, we'll see how that goes. Alright, this is the old one that came out, the 355 pinion, and this is the 456 pinion. You can see the size difference. It's really major. I'm thinking that this lip height might be the same height as that lip height in there, though. They're probably set to be the same. So
anytime you get something which is a major friction fit, you can either put it in the freezer for a while or put it in boiling water, depending which way you need to go, and it will make it quite a lot easier to install something.
I looked at the shims which were underneath here, and it looked to be about that same thickness there, so that's what I put in, and it turns out to be 0.054. So that's going to be my starting point, and God knows how I'm going to get this bearing on once I press it on, if I have to put more shims in or put less shims on, but I'll worry about that at the time. Worst case scenario, I guess I'll have to buy a new bearing. I've got the pinion in, and yeah, there's no play in it whatsoever, but that is incredibly tight. I use that bar with that thingy to get the crush sleeve to seat, well, to get rid of all the play. So I still have to look up exactly what tension that should be, but I think that's good. I mean, it does not spin. It does not spin freely. It stops real quick, so it's not too loose. And then I press my bearings onto here. As you can see, a little bit sticks up above the surface to get them properly seated. I bolted my 456 gear to the hub, and these bolts here go anti-clockwise. So make sure you realize that when you try and screw them in. And they go to 150 pounds of torque. It seems so tight. I tried various torque wrenches just to make sure I wasn't over tightening them, but sure enough, yeah, 150 pounds is pretty damn tight. And you know, as you can see on the old 355 gear, you can see that's just below the surface as well. Anyway, so that's basically ready to go in, but I need to rent, buy or make a tool for this, because I understand these are meant to be torqued in reasonably tight. So I want to research that a little bit more, because I used a screwdriver to take it out through here, but I'm not sure. So let me research that a little bit. Anyway, I'm going to be fitting that in shortly and testing my pattern, and if my pattern's incorrect and my pinion depth is incorrect, it means I have to pull this out. And to be honest with you, I don't really see how you remove the bearings from this without damaging them to put new shims in there, but I'll deal with that when I come to it, if I have to come to it, which I probably will.
So there's obviously tools you can buy, but some people will get a plumbing fitting like this to put on a rod and put down the shaft to tighten up the end play there. Anyway, I'm starting to get my patterns going, and you know, doing my adjustment backwards and forwards, and it's, you know, I'm getting some interesting patterns, and it's starting to look pretty good. So it looks like I've got away without having to readjust my pinion depth. So I guess we're not going to see what I would have to do to correct that.
A inch-pound weight, but this is meant to move at between 20 and 35 inch-pounds, which 35 inch foot-pounds is 2.9 foot-pounds. So this starts here, and it starts to move at 1 foot-pound, with it about a foot away from, which is about the length of most gauges. So I don't think there's too much resistance on that. So it starts there, it starts there, and then, I mean, it moves even before, almost moves with the weight of this thing. Hey, I'm adjusting my backlash on the ring gear, which is meant to be anywhere between 5 and 12, and so I got about 8 there, which I like.
So normally you'll get all the specs that you need to follow with your ring gear, but you know, obviously it's important to look that up and see what you need to adjust things to. Anyway, I brought my nice Yukon cover and everything to give it that nice look on the back, and it's all going according to plan.
Back together with my Yukon 456 gear. I got everything buttoned up, and I've done my final pattern check, and I'm happy with it. I mean, it could be better, but that's set at 0.8 to 9 backlash. But I think we're good. So you torque that, you have these fractionally loose, you torque this to 10 pounds, this to 10 pounds, you know, you set your backlash, you recheck, then you tighten the caps up, then you tighten these to 75 pounds on each side, and you put these on and you tighten them to 7.5 pounds. I put a little bit of Loctite on them, and then I put the pin in to secure this, and that calls for 20 pounds, and I put a little Loctite on that, and I can still spin it by hand, but you know, with everything connected. And like I said, I think the pattern's okay.
So you've heard me say this a lot in all my videos, and you know, I don't claim to be an expert in anything that I do, and you know, I don't do any particular one thing enough to become an expert at it, but I try and do my best. So anyway, this is the cross member I had to make for my springs and for my rubber block stops for my axle, and it's quite a good way to do it, and it's kind of foolproof and it works. So my car sits a little bit low. It's all about proportions, and so I need to raise it a little bit. So I want to put some coil springs in there with the leaf springs and get a little bit more height out of it. So you'll see me doing that now. So I made my bracket, which I'm going to connect my adjustable coils to, as you just saw, and I'm using a jack to kind of determine, you know, what kind of height I want in the back of the car, and you know, proportion wise how it looks, and obviously, you know, if I go over big bumps with a lot of people in the car or I'm towing something, I need some clearance there. So you can see how I've installed my springs here, which I much prefer them on the same side of the axle than crossed over like they do on some factory cars, which I don't really know why they do that. I think you get better suspension doing it on the same side. Anyway, it's starting to look really nice at the back. I mean, everything about a car like this, especially when it's high in the air like that, you want everything to look good. So seeing as people can see underneath the car probably better than top of it, you want that all to look good, and it's looking good. So I'm very pleased with that. So I'm seeing how the weight of the boat looks on the car, and everything's looking good. And not that I'll probably really tow the boat much with it. I won't. I'll use my Hummer for putting it in the water. The car's too nice to leave at the boat ramp. Anyway, the car's almost finished, apart from the interior stuff, and I've got some photographs of it there next to the first one we did, the 61 Ford Fairlane, and it's all looking awesome. And as you can see from the back, that's looking awesome too, although I'm going to redo the exhaust system with 3-inch stainless pipe. And considering the car went from this to this, it's pretty amazing.